Hello students, welcome back to the series of online lectures initiated by Shet Vidya Mandir, English High School and Junior College of Science and Commerce, Vasai. I am Mrs. Snehal Falkau, and today we shall study Chapter 2 from the Prose section of your English course book, and the name of the chapter is The Comm and the Anthem, written by O. Henry. Let us learn about the writer. William Sidney Potter, better known by his pen name O. Henry, was an American short story writer. He was a voracious reader since childhood. He started a humorous weekly called The Rolling Stone, and when the venture failed, he joined the Houston Post as a reporter, columnist, and an occasional cartoonist. His style of writing was unique. People often termed his writings as smile with tears, which implies his twisted way of thoughts and endings in almost every story. His stories are known for their surprise endings. The short story The Comm and the Anthem first appeared in print in the New York World newspaper in December 1904 and was republished in the 1906 anthology The 4 Million. Henry's famous humorous short story, The Comm and the Anthem, set in the early 1900s in the New York City, features one night in the life of the protagonist, Soapy. Protagonist means the main character of the story. Soapy is a vagabond. Vagabond means a wanderer who has no established residence or any means of livelihood. Soapy is a homeless man with criminal background trying out different plans to get himself arrested. Let us see why he tries to get arrested and whether he succeeds in his endeavors. On a beach in Madison Square, Soapy moved restlessly. There are certain signs to show that winter is coming. When the birds begin to fly south, when women who want nice new warm coats become kind to their husbands, and when Soapy moves restlessly on his seat in the park, you know that winter is near. Soapy's mind became cognizant. Cognizant means having or showing knowledge or understanding of. His mind became cognizant of the fact that time had come for him to find a shelter to protect himself from the severe winter. And therefore he moved uneasily on the bench, wondering how he would face the harsh winter without a home. The ambitions of Soapy to find a shelter were not of the highest. That means he did not have any high plans to find himself a lavish place to go. Like other people, he did not plan to go on Mediterranean cruises or dream of southern skies. Southern skies refer to places with warm climate. All Soapy wanted was 3 months in the prison on the Blackwells Island. Blackwells Island is an island in New York's East River. This island once housed a prison. 3 months on the island meant 3 months of food every day, a bed every night, and protection from the cold north wind. For several years, the Blackwells jail had been his winter home. That is, for many years, Soapy would somehow land in jail during the winter, and thus he protected himself from the severe cold. Therefore, just like every winter for past several years, Soapy planned to get arrested for a petty crime so that he would receive a short prison sentence. Soapy, having decided to go to the island, at once set about to accomplish his desire. It all seemed very easy. There were many ways to get arrested. The most pleasant way was to go have a good dinner at a luxurious cafe. Then say he did not have any money to pay. And then a cop would be called, the cop would arrest him, he would be taken to a judge, and the judge would do the rest. Soapy left his bench and walked out of the Madison Square to where the Broadway and the Fifth Avenue meet. Broadway and Fifth Avenue are famous streets in New York. Turning up the Broadway, he stopped at a luxurious cafe. This was where the best food and the best people in the best clothes appeared every evening. If he could get to a table unsuspected, he believed that success would surely be his. Soapy was confident that he looked presentable enough to get into the cafe. He believed that the part of his body that would be seen above the table, that is, the part above his waist, looked all right. His face was nicely shaven, his coat was decent enough, and he was wearing a tie presented to him by a lady missionary on Thanksgiving Day. Lady missionary is a religious lady who works for charity. Thanksgiving is the fourth Thursday of November, marked by religious observances and traditional meals. He began thinking of what he would like to eat. He was looking forward to eating a roasted mallard duck, wine, cheese, a cup of coffee, and a cigar. The total would not be too high to call forth any extreme revenge from the cafe management. That means Soapy decided to eat well, but not very expensive food to cause the cafe management to take any kind of other severe action against him, but just enough to get himself arrested as planned. Also, the dinner would leave him filled and happy for the journey to his winter home, that is, the Blackwells Island. But as Soapy set his foot inside the cafe door, the head waiter saw his frayed trousers and decadent shoes. Frayed means tattered and torn. Decadent means old and worn out. Strong and ready hands, that means a strong waiter, turned Soapy around and moved him quietly and quickly outside again. Soapy turned off Broadway. He realized that his route to the coveted island was not an easy one. Coveted means greatly desired. He must think of some other way to enter the limbo. Limbo means an imaginary place between heaven and hell. Thus, Soapy's first attempt to get arrested failed. At the corner of 6th Avenue was a shop displaying wares behind a wide glass window bright with electric lights. Soapy picked up a big stone and threw it through the glass. People came running around the corner. A cop was the first among them. Soapy stood still, and he smiled at the sight of the cop. "Where's the man that did that?" asked the cop agitatedly. Agitatedly means in a troubled manner. "Don't you think that I might have done it?" said Soapy in a friendly voice. What Soapy wanted was now coming towards him. But the cop refused to accept Soapy as a clue, because men who break windows do not stop there to talk to cops. Instead, they take to their heels. That means they run away as fast as they can. The cop saw a man running to catch a car and thought him as the culprit and thus started chasing him. And Soapy, now sick at heart, walked away slowly because he had failed twice. On the opposite side of the street was another restaurant with no great pretensions, which means it was not as fine as the one on the Broadway. Its crockery, napery, atmosphere, and food were not very great. It catered to large appetites and modern purses, means the people who went there were not rich and they ate a lot with very little amount of money. Soapy entered this restaurant without any challenge. He sat down at a table and was soon eating a big dinner which included beefsteaks, flapjacks, donuts, and pie. Upon finishing his meal, he told the waiter that the minutest coin and himself were total strangers, which means he did not have even a single penny to pay for the meal. "Get busy and call a cop," said Soapy, "and don't keep a gentleman waiting." "No cop for you," said the waiter in a smooth voice. He called another waiter and they both threw Soapy upon his left ear on the hard street outside. He stood up slowly, one part at a time, and beat the dust from his clothes. Getting arrested now seemed like an elusive dream. Elusive means difficult to achieve. The island seemed very far away. A cop who was standing nearby laughed and walked away. This was Soapy's third failure. A sudden fear caught Soapy. No cop was going to arrest him. He was in a state of panic. He came upon another cop standing in front of a glittering theatre and he caught at the immediate straw of disorderly conduct. Straw here means a slight chance, which means Soapy decided to misbehave in public so as to get arrested. He began to yell drunken gibberish. He danced, howled, raved, and disturbed the skies, means he disturbed everyone around. The cop turned his back to Soapy and said to a citizen standing nearby, "It is one of the students from Yale who is celebrating his university's victory in a football game. Noisy, but no harm. We have instructions to let them be." Yale is a university in Connecticut. Thus, Soapy failed miserably the fourth time. Disconsolate. Disconsolate means very unhappy. Soapy stopped his disorderly behavior. He thought to himself, was no cop going to touch him? He began to think of the island as if it were a distant Arcadia. Arcadia is a mountainous district in southern Greece. In poetic fantasy, it represents a pastoral paradise. It means, for Soapy, the Blackwells Island was his kind of paradise. Soon afterwards, Soapy saw a well-dressed man in the cigar store lighting a cigar. The man had set his silk umbrella by the door on the entrance. Soapy stepped inside, grabbed the umbrella, and sauntered off. Sauntered means walked in a relaxed manner. The man followed him quickly. "My umbrella," he said sternly. "Oh, is it?" sneered Soapy. Sneered means to give a mocking smile. "Why don't you call a cop?" "I took it. Your umbrella. Why don't you call a cop? There's one standing at the corner." The umbrella owner walked slowly. Soapy did the same with a premonition that he was going to fail. Premonition means a strong feeling that something unpleasant is going to happen. The cop looked at the two men curiously. The umbrella man said, "You know how these things happen. If it's your umbrella, I am very sorry. I picked it this morning in a restaurant. If you say it's yours, hope you'll—" "It's mine," cried Soapy with anger in his voice. The umbrella man hurried away. The cop hurried to help a blonde lady across the street. Yet again, Soapy failed. Soapy walked eastward. He threw the umbrella as far as he could throw it. He talked to himself about cops and what he thought of them. He wished to be arrested, but they seemed to believe he was like a king who could do no wrong. At last, Soapy came to one of the quiet streets on the east side of the city. He turned here and began to walk south towards Madison Square. He was going home, although his home was only a seat in a park. But on a very quiet corner, Soapy stopped. Here was an old church, quaint and rambling. Quaint means unusual but attractive. Rambling means spreading out in different directions. Through one violet glass window came a soft light. Sweet music played by an organist came to Soapy's ears and seemed to hold him there. The moon was above, peaceful and bright. There were only few vehicles and pedestrians. He could hear sparrows twittering, and the anthem that came from the church held Soapy there, for he had known it well long ago. Anthem means a song of devotion and praise. Soapy suddenly remembered his past. In those days, his life contained such things as mothers and roses, ambitions and friends, and immaculate thoughts and clothes. Immaculate means clean and tidy. He had come to the old church at the right time. There was a sudden and wonderful change in his soul. He saw with sick fear how he had fallen and failed in his life. He saw his worthless days, his wrong desires, and his dead hopes. In a moment, his heart answered this change in his soul. He decided he would fight to change his life. He would pull himself up out of the mire. Mire means mud. Here it means an unpleasant situation. He would make a man of himself again. There was time, he was young enough. He would resurrect his old purpose in life and follow it. Resurrect means revive or bring back to life. The sweet music had changed him. He decided to go into the downtown district the next day and would find work. A man who imported fur had once offered him a job of a driver. He would find that man and ask for the job. He would be somebody in the world. He would. Just as when Soapy thought this, he felt a hand on his arm. He looked quickly around into the broad face of a cop. "What are you doing hanging around here?" asked the cop. "Nothing," said Soapy. "Come along," said the cop. 3 months on the island, said the judge to Soapy the next morning. Soapy was arrested for loitering around in the church premises and sentenced to 3 months of imprisonment at the Blackwells Island. We come across the values of self-realization and redemption in the story. Dear students, the story shows us that life is ironical. Initially, Soapy feels that there is freedom from miseries and worries in confinement, that is, prison. Therefore, he makes numerous plans and is desperate to get arrested. But none of the cops arrest him. And just when he realizes that real freedom lies in leading a virtuous life, he decides to work hard and to change himself into a better person. He is taken into confinement. Hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you.